Let's talk a little bit about how to install and configure all this stuff that we can plug into our computers. So we can plug in just about anything we want as long as it has the right connector. And one of the most common things that we start with is an external keyboard. Especially if you have a smaller laptop system and you're using it at home like I do, then I have a wireless keyboard and mouse that I plug in. And so that way I'm not necessarily having to use that super tiny truncated keyboard that comes with the laptop. So there are different types of keyboards that we have. Our standard is what's called a QWERTY keyboard. And if you take a look at the top row of letters, you'll see that it actually spells out QWERTY, which is how this got its name. Now there are different orders of letters on keyboards, as far as some of them maybe go A, B, C, D, which would probably ruin and wreck my typing speed and ability to go through and communicate smoothly through our keyboard, and probably yours too. But there are lots of different types of orders that are still being tested out for efficiency. Some of them have actually proven to be more efficient than the QWERTY standard, but it's kind of hard to change something the whole world is used to. Ergonomic keyboards that you see there in the center are ones that have a different shape for them to help us be more comfortable, especially for those that work at a computer 40 or more hours a week. You want to make sure that you have something that is the most comfortable so that you're not causing damage to your wrists or your fingers. So mice or mouses are the same thing. We have different types of mice. We definitely have ergonomic mice. Our classic is in the top left there. We had a trackball mouse. A lot of you may still use those. Touchpads are something on your laptop that we've all used. Track points are probably a reason for frustration in your life at some point, but some computers do actually still have those, even currently being manufactured. Fun peripherals that we have for input devices are gamepads and joysticks. And we may have customized or unique input devices that we use for different types of programs. So if you're a gamer, you definitely have something that's different than just a mouse and keyboard. If you're using specific systems that you need to input information on, you may have a barcode reader or scanner connected to your computer database. A lot of us have scanners or all-in-ones, meaning input and output devices for that, where you have a printer, fax, scanner, copier, all-in-one type device. But these are all things that you can plug into your computer and use. So we have different multimedia devices. Webcams were the most common. Now those are usually built in. We may have separate microphones. Again, those are now usually integrated, but if you want a nicer or upgraded version, then you'll have something that's external. You can plug your digital camera or camcorder in and get data into your computer. But what is up and coming, and you may not have at home, but you probably have in your work environment, are security input devices. Now this may be to access the actual building or to gain access to your computer. We even now have fingerprint scanners on USB drives. So we're really using different types of biometrics and security to lock down our data and only give access to those who are supposed to have access, and of course, lock everyone else out. So these are really cool devices. They're continuing to improve and come on the market and be a little less expensive as time goes by. At some point, everyone will have to scan into their computer with something other than a username and password, and that's coming here pretty quickly. So whenever you're installing an input device, we need to make sure that we have some boxes checked. First and foremost are the drivers, and what you will hear about over and over and over again are the drivers. If something's not working right, the first thing you're going to do from the OS or operating system side is check your drivers. Not only do you have them, but are they updated and the most current? You need to also make sure that it is compatible for the device that you are plugging it into. Meaning, if you have a piece of hardware that only works with Apple computers, then you're probably not going to have a lot of luck plugging it into a Windows PC or Linux operating system or Unix operating system. So you need to make sure that one, you have the drivers, and two, it is compatible. Now, when you are plugging something in, you can always go to the control panel and look at what is going on per se and customize and configure the device that you're plugging in. So when you go into your control panel, you'll see different sections, but the third one down is hardware and sound. And this is the first place you should go to see all the devices and printers that you have, as well as adding a new printer or device to communicate with your computer. Now, if you have a third-party device, which means something special that's not a major, normal, everyday piece of equipment, you want to have a PS2 controller or now PS4 controller work via USB on your computer, and you bought it from some crazy company that you can't pronounce, from eBay or some other just random shop that you found online. So one of the things that may happen often is when Windows goes through their updates, they may not recognize the drivers that are compatible with this piece of equipment. So you want to make sure that you actually go to that manufacturer website and install the drivers from there. Another thing that you want to check before even buying it is that, again, it's compatible with your hardware. So we talked about input devices, which is how to get information into your computer, but now let's talk about output devices. Now this is where you're going to get information from your computer. So a display device is the most common. You are seeing things, a reaction to or response from whatever information you're putting in. You're needing a response out, and this is where we see it on our display device. When we ask for data to go from digital to paper, we're asking our computer to send it to a printer and give us that data. So again, you're getting output. Speakers are giving you sound, headphones can give you sound, Braille printers are going to give you paper, but in a, for those of you who are unfamiliar, that is how people with visual impairments or that are blind can actually go through and read. So Braille printer will put text into a format that they can touch and feel. And a screen reader is going to give us an audible response. It's going to read the text that's on the screen. So all of those are outputs from our computer itself. One of the coolest, especially for gamers or entertainment, is what we have, or what we call surround sound, which means you have lots of speakers that quote unquote surround. And I put a little bit of emphasis into this because most people forget that surround sound does mean all around or 360. So if you only have a speaker in front of you, even if you have a subwoofer incorporated into your system, those two pieces do not make it surround sound. You've got to have speakers all around you. So all of our devices need a place where we can go manage them, see what's going on, see what version we have, what drivers they have, and the place to do that is called the Device Manager on the Windows side. So you'll see here, this is a Windows 8 screenshot of a Device Manager, and each one of those sections, you'll see a little arrow pointing towards them. And that means that there is a drop-down option. So you can click on that drop-down arrow and see what keyboard or keyboards you have plugged in. This will include the one that is attached to your laptop, as well as any external hardware or peripheral input devices that you have plugged in. So this is a really good place to monitor and troubleshoot what's going on and see what you have and need to update maybe as far as your peripherals and making sure they work. Now, one last section that I want to overview as far as our input and output devices are things that do both. So I talked a little bit about what is called an all-in-one. You may see the acronym AIO, all-in-one. And those are multifunction printers or multifunction devices. This is where you can put in information to your computer as well as get information out of your computer. So specifically for this device, I want you to take a moment and think, what is one way you can put information into your computer through an all-in-one, and what is one way that you can get information out of your computer using an all-in-one? All right, so let's take a look. In regards to putting information in, and usually this is the biggest challenge for people to come up with, we're talking about scanning information into your computer. We're taking it from paper to digital. So that's an input method. Getting information out, of course, is printing something. So if you have a Word document or graphic that you need to get onto paper, you send it from your computer to the printer, you're getting information out. So different ways to get information in and out of an all-in-one device. Now, KVMs are really cool things. It stands for Keyboard Video Mouse or Keyboard Video Monitor, which is what I actually usually refer to it as. And that's because you can plug multiple pieces of equipment into this piece of hardware, multiple keyboards, videos, keyboard, monitors, and mice or different peripherals into a KVM, and you can have them work with multiple systems. So if you have more than one computer, you can plug different peripherals into this and have different sets. On the other side of that, if you have more than one monitor and keyboard and mouse, and you're looking to use them with the same system, you can do that with this as well. So it's a really cool piece of hardware. You probably don't necessarily need one in your home unless you have a full at-home lab or gaming system. But at work, when we have multiple systems going, this is a great piece of equipment, so we're not having to plug in and unplug different peripherals into different systems all day. Touchscreens are pretty common now. You've got one on your phone. If you have a tablet, it's touchscreen. If you have a laptop, there's a chance that it's touchscreen. But the point of this slide is to remind you that it is getting more and more common for things to have touchscreen inputs or displays. And so we actually, at this point, even have full projector systems or whiteboards that are touchscreens as well. Not necessarily a common at-home tool, but something you'll see in business or classrooms pretty often. Smart TVs were really popular for a second. They definitely still exist, so we need to make sure we're familiar with them. App-enabled TVs, which means you actually had apps on your TV integrated with it where you could connect to your Netflix account, your Facebook account, you could go directly onto YouTube, and you didn't necessarily need a whole computer in its traditional sense plugged into your TV to access those things. Your TV actually had its own operating system, which allowed applications to be uploaded to it, and it could directly connect to those things without having to plug it into an external computer and then just display it on the screen. Those of us who still have cable, we still have a box of some sort to connect to it. So whether it's Comcast or Time Warner or any of the other crazy options out there, you have some type of box where you're able to interact with it, change the channel, change the settings. They control what you do or don't have access to there. So this is a piece of IT equipment, and you may not see it as that because it's just your TV box, but there's actually a lot more going on in there as far as access control, meaning what programs you do and don't have access to as far as the channels. It has a wired connection behind it, so we're going to learn about those things when we go into wired communication and different devices. About expansion cards, and there were a lot of different types, and here are just some of the examples. Now, all of us should have a USB card. We should all have a wireless card in our laptops, in our computers, and that allows us to. Some of the ones that are not as common might be TV tuner cards, meaning that we can actually tune into live channels via our computer. We may not have video capture cards. That means that you're actually able to capture video from your screen. For laptops, we do not use riser cards, but in tower or full system boxes, you may have a riser card. But these are, like I said, just some of the examples that you can have for those expansion card types. So the good thing, or the most important thing to consider here, is that they are compatible and you need to configure them. So most of us are used to a plug and play environment. In today's world, if you plug something in and it doesn't work, it's broken. Right? That means, oh, I have to go do something special, or I have to go do some type of update, or what is wrong with it. But plug and play, to be completely honest, is one of the most dangerous things to have enabled on your computer, because that means you could plug in a USB device or a new drive and automatically start loading viruses and malware and spyware to your computer. So for anybody who's on the security side, we are usually disabling plug and play in anything and everything we can. For most end users in the home environment, if it doesn't play as soon as it's plugged in, we think it's broken. So just be aware that maybe plug and play is not enabled or compatible with that device, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's broken. If you need to do a manual installation, that means that you need to go get the driver. Sometimes it comes on a CD. Most commonly now, you'll just go to the manufacturer's website and download it, and then you'll install it, and everything will be good to go as far as running that new peripheral.